Hello, everyone. It's Shane Conto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome back to Development Hell Podcast. And it's that time of the month we have the movie club assembled. We got Alex, Jim, Matt, and Vinnie to talk about Vinnie's pick, Diabolique. And it only took me like 5 times to get that right.
Diabolique.
It's Monet. It's French. So this film, and I'm going to butcher this, is from Henri Georges Clouzot, and this is a thriller, which is shockingly terrifying for a film that was made in 1955. Because I don't know about the rest of you, but like I'll be about to put on a horror movie, and my now fiance, it's weird saying it that way, she's like, is this scary? I'm like, well, it's from like the 40s, so how scary can it be? And I was sitting watching this movie being like, this is tense. This is real tense right now. But we're going to get things started how we usually do, and everybody gives their basic thoughts. So, Alex, what's your initial thoughts about the film?
Well, it's funny. When I was watching it, I didn't really feel like it was scary, like a horror movie, but scary in terms of like the relationships and the way that he talked to her, Michel de la Salle, right? Like the way he spoke to both his wife and his mistress. And I thought that the acting from, I'm not going to try to say her last name, but Vera, who played the wife, and Paul, I thought the acting was very strong and very convincing. I mean, he's a bastard, he's just a real bastard. When the ball went in the pool, and we'll get into that, like I started to get a real Stephen King vibe off of this for about 15, 20 minutes in the middle of the movie. And I just felt like I got more into it as time went on. I had a hard time getting into it in the beginning, and then I kind of got pulled in. And then, of course, I know we're going to talk about the ending. The ending was just kind of mind-blowing for me. So and this is one of those movies I'd want to watch again to pick up the little things, to pick up the details. I think there were some things that they strung us along with that I might have missed. So.
Vinny, you were the only one who had seen this before, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll ask Vinny what he thinks about all the little details throughout, because the rest of us just watched it for the first time. But Jim, what were your initial thoughts?
So I thought the pacing was pretty masterful. I get why Ali said it took you a minute to get into it, because it does start off kind of slow. My notes were masterfully paced, great twist ending. De La Salle is a monster. Miss Horner is a stone cold bitch, and Christina, I don't know. Like, I'm a little up in the air on Christina. Like, she's tougher than we thought, maybe, but like, she's also not. She's not a character that I'm rooting for in the end of the movie. Like, I want her to do what I want her to do, and she doesn't do what I want her to do. But do I really feel bad about how it turned out for her character? Not really, So lots of cool stuff with play of like light and dark and shadow, and a lot of religious kind of wordplay, from names, the name of the movie, to Christina, which is like Christian or Christ, or however you want to take that. Lots of stuff that we could talk about as far as religious symbolism, but overall, yeah, really enjoyed the movie. Thanks, Vinny.
So Matt, does Christina get to go to Applebee's?
Christina in the middle didn't. In the beginning, definitely not. And then the middle, I was like, I don't know, because she was she's like, she's not very, she needs other people, like, throughout the entire movie, whether it's the police officer or her husband's mistress or her husband, or it's like other random or just like events itself. Like she always feels like she's being like dragged and like towards something. Like she's really passive, and it was like frustrating because yeah, I like what Jim said. Like you want her to do something, but what I'm hoping is two things. I didn't read anything. I think there's like a remake, and there's like it's based on a book, and like I didn't read anything about that stuff. The only thing but when I'm hoping, I almost don't even want to know about that stuff because I kind of want the ending. I know we'll talk about it, but I kind of want the ending to be the way that I'm imagining it to mean, where maybe maybe like that cough and that heart trouble, maybe that was fake the entire time, and maybe she actually was kind of like masterminding stuff. And also like at the end when she like the death scene, like a part of me, also spoiler I guess, and then put that in the description of the video with like
spoilers.
Like when she dies, like a part of me is like, damn, that was bad like death acting. And then the ending, because I immediately thought of Dark Knight Rises.
Oh no.
But then like at the end, and it's like, oh crap, like she was acting. So yeah, she can hang. She can hang. Her ex can't come though. He's weird. He's annoying. He's not good. Also, okay, this is like an immature comment. Okay, are you ready? Okay. Like, why couldn't the husband and his lover just beat up the old guy? They couldn't overpower him. Are you serious? That's what I thought they were gonna do. I thought they were gonna punch him or like or drown. Did anyone else think like that, or am I just some kind of sociopath?
So, not gonna lie, in that moment where they're like hugging and they got away with it, and he just like, no, you did it. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's like Mark Wahlberg at the end of The Departed, like just rolling up there and being like, no, you didn't. And I think I was too busy being in that moment to be like, oh my God, he got them. To think about, yeah, they probably could. Like, maybe they could have just got rid of him too and went along with things. But you know what? They were just like, ah, shucks. Here you go. But
okay, I have to admit something because I need something clarified. So I thought Christina died at the end. Does she not? Are you saying that she doesn't die?
I think it's left up to interpretation.
I think Matt is thinking that she wasn't dead. I think we're made to believe that she's dead.
Okay. And then the hint with the boy still seeing her. Okay. I didn't even think of it that way.
So I thought she died too. Like my initial impression was that she died. And then that there had to be some sense of cosmic justice. So that's when the old inspector dude swooped in. And then, I can't explain to you why, when the little boy, what's the little boy's name? Manio?
His name? I don't remember.
Little boy who sees dead people, right? When he said he saw the headmistress, right? I was like, oh, that's just the director giving us an ambiguous ending. But like, it does make a lot more sense, and it's more consistent with what happened in the movie, that she was play acting and she is still alive. She did give him back the slingshot. You know what I mean?
Oh shit, that makes sense.
Earlier they said that how he couldn't have gotten the slingshot where it was. They didn't say why he couldn't have, but they said that he couldn't have gotten the slingshot where it was the first time, so, or something like that. Or he couldn't have placed it, or he couldn't have done something earlier in the movie. So the fact that he had it, I don't know. Also, why would they punish him if the school is closing? Like that, like, the other old guy needs to chill out. Like, what the hell?
So, before we get too much into the film, I want to make sure that Vinnie gets a chance to talk about his thoughts.
Oh yeah, my bad. I just have to complain.
I guess I'll throw Vinnie. So, how many times have you seen this?
Actually, before watching it for this video, I'd only seen it one other time.
Okay. So second time viewing, what were some of your thoughts?
Well, you know, going off what James said, like I'm glad he mentioned the pacing because it really was great because like watching the movie, like I noticed how like it's not until like about an hour into the movie where Nicole and Christina like dispose of the body, and then the rest of the movie is them trying to cover it up and trying to figure out what to do once the body goes missing. So for that first hour, you get a great introduction to the characters. You get to know who they are, their relationships. Christina, like the issues Christina is having with her husband. You get, you know, you almost get to see like their whole plan play out in real time because of how much of the movie is dedicated to them, like drugging him and then bringing his body back to the pool and then like even though that doesn't happen until halfway through the movie, for the second half, you still feel like you get enough time with everything else unfolding, with them like trying to cover it up and then discovering the body is missing and then deciding whether or not to go to the police and then going to the morgue. You get just as much in the second hour as you do in the first hour, and like it never feels rushed. Like everything feels planned out. You get many details, and I thought that was a great aspect about the movie.
I appreciate your perspective, especially since this was your pick, and I'm glad that you picked it. And just to bring up something that Vinnie brought up to us is that, like, Hitchcock wanted to adapt this, and I could see that all over it. Like, this 100% felt like this would have been something that Hitchcock would have made, and especially because, like, it starts off with like this toxic relationship and it being about this toxic relationship and her trying to figure out how to get out of this situation, and then murder. And then it's what, Vinny?
I was going to ask you guys because I was thinking about this. Like, if Hitchcock directed this, who could you see him casting as Nicole?
Some other blonde lady. I think he likes blondes, right?
Yes, very much so.
Well, if this was around the same time, so like the mid,
it was 55 when this came out.
What did he actually make in the mid 50s?
He made like, well,
because Vertigo was the end.
Rear Window. Right?
Actually, both Rear Window and Vertigo, I think they were both between like 54 and 58 because Psycho was 1960, but then he did North by Northwest right before Psycho, but Rear Window and Vertigo came before those two movies.
I'm going to finish my initial thoughts, and then we should totally start with that conversation because I think it would be really interesting to think about it. And I make this comment, which I made this comment about the birds on the last episode of the regular podcast with Alex and Matt, is that I didn't really get drawn in as much with the relationship elements in the first hour of the birds before like the birds show up and start messing stuff up. And that's a hard thing. And like Hereditary did this where it's like it's a very human, very intense drama before stuff hits the fan and gets crazy. So like you really need to sell the audience on this toxic relationship. And I was hooked from the start. I'm like, this is messed up. This is intense. I feel so bad for her. And then they start plotting. And then they do the whole, are they going to find out? Are they going to find out so well in this film? And because like you have the parts, it's like, do I care about this relationship at the beginning? Building up to like, and then trying to get away with it. And all that was so interesting. And I had one of those moments, like I was watching this with Jess, and she gets distracted real easy. So like she'll start conversation, she'll be looking at stuff, and then she noticed that like I just got completely quiet and just like staring at the screen during the climax of this movie, because I'm just like, just like staring, like
really drew you in.
hallways, creaking doors, light behind doors, is somebody in the hallway, and I'm just like, this is expertly directed, and I was so drawn in, and like I was feeling it so much. And then it came with that cathartic moment where like the detective guy just like walks in. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
You know what? Even though I had seen this before, it had been like 7 years ago that I first saw it, and I actually forgot that they get caught in the end. So when that happened, I was like, yes.
So, and I was in it, and when she went into the bathroom, and his body's just like chilling in the tub, and then he starts like creeping up on Mike, and not gonna lie, kind of feel on the same page as Matt. Her like dying acting almost took me out of the scene, like real close. It wasn't quite Marion Cotillard bad in Dark Knight Rises, because that completely takes me out of the movie when she's just like and like
well you know what, like Christina's acting in that scene, you know what, yeah, it was like, it felt like kind of off, but I mean at the same time, like I kind of attributed that to just like kind of like that classic like that like classic movie like style of acting, like you kind of like overact, but it's still kind of works, like you know what I mean.
It only almost took me out of the movie. It was like on that line, and it's very interesting thinking about like, wasn't an act then? And I'm like,
am I the only one that thinks it's an act? Anybody? No one else thinks it's an act? Everyone
I'm starting
to think
though, like that's really compelling. And
it's
just on a
point.
side note, I'm like, rating heart attacks in movies, like you have to go a long way to beat Pa Kent from Superman the movie.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. My acting teacher at Bonaventure brought that particular actor up. He said, greatest heart attack ever on screen. And
absolutely.
Wait, and I'm like, wait, who? I'm sorry.
Oh, crap. It's not, who played Pa Kent in
Superman, the first Superman. And he's Clark Kent's Earth father when he has the heart attack.
Glenn Ford plays Pa Kent, and the heart attack he's had, like perfection. I'm like,
but here's the thing. I need to watch again. I didn't really notice it. Because you guys describing like the last 10 minutes of this movie are very anxiety provoking. I can feel the anxiety, when she's in the bed and she's having that bad dream, she wakes up and sees the detective, like she can feel it. And they are slowly just working on her the whole movie, leaving little traces of himself around. And I'm thinking it's his ghost, of course. That's what I'm thinking the whole time. Like, oh, it's his ghost and he's haunting her and something really horrible is going to happen here. So I need to watch it again, because I didn't like, it didn't pop out to me as like really bad acting. But the difference is that I think they're building up to something dramatic that they really want the audience to feel. Whereas the Clark Kent's father, that was just out of nowhere. And so he has to kind of stop, lose breath, grab his wrist and drop. And then we immediately transition into another part of this kid's life, so I think that I think where, you know, they were going for a much more dramatic
and
end,
it was,
you know,
and it fit because like there was some, like you said, this is anxiety inducing, real building of tension throughout that whole entire sequence. And that was the blow off. Her like dropping dead was the blow off of all that tension. And then he like pops the eyeball things out. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
For me, yes, it wasn't until the eyeballs pop out. I'm sure some of you felt the same way, where I was like, mother, you know, like I was like, then I knew, then it clicked for me what was really going on. But until those eyelids come out, I'm just like, oh, he's like a zombie. I'm still like in that world. And like, oh, okay, I see what's happening. You people are just the shittiest people in the world.
Yeah. I will be buying this on Criterion with the absolutely amazing cover art.
I have it on Criterion
with like his head like halfway submerged into the water.
Yep.
Perfect. But yeah, this is incredible craftsmanship. This was an intense film. I was hooked. And there's very few times, because like my other brother John gives me crap because like I underreact while watching movies. I'm reacting much more internally when I'm watching a movie than like outwardly. And like even at the end of Infinity War, he turned to me and I was just like more like this, and he's like, say something. And like watching this movie, both Jess and I had like an outward reaction of that detective popping into the room and being like, yes.
I can't remember. There was another movie we reviewed that with this club that I had the same reaction for, the reaction. I can't remember which one it was.
This was like I mentioned before, this was on like end of the Departed level of like cheer at the end of the movie. I'm like,
okay,
got him.
Yeah, I don't think they milked. For me personally, I don't think they milked, because old movies did that a lot. They would like da da da, and then the credits would roll, and that had that same feeling for me. I don't think they milk the like. I want to see the jail door like close on the two, and they're just like, that's what I want to say. They didn't milk that, you know.
It's interesting too because like this isn't an American film, and there's a like. I have said this probably too many times in a review and being like, this movie is very French. And like, not 100% sure how I define that, but like, I watched a movie that came out recently, The Salt of Tears, and it's a French film. It was very influenced. It's a new film, very influenced by French New Wave. Literally a movie about a guy going through 3 separate relationships, and 2 of them get pregnant, one of them has an abortion, somebody dies at the end, and it just like ends. And I'm just like, this was a very French movie. And it's just like that kind of thing. So like, I'm not surprised. Like if this was a Hollywood movie, they totally would have been like, like slamming those jail doors behind them. It's like, you're going to jail forever.
Well, you know what? I think I went on the Wikipedia page for the American remake, and I think it might have said that that for the climax, the 2 women, they end up forgiving each other and then kill the man. I think, like, I'm pretty sure that's what it said.
In the I'm sorry, in the book?
No, in the American remake from the 90s.
Of course, they killed the man, and the 2 women get along together. Oh, that's and that was made in the 90s too. But
yep.
No.
He's going to shake my head like this.
Sharon Stone is the perfect actress to play Miss Horner in the 90s.
Yes,
but,
yes.
Vinnie, I don't know enough 50s. Is it Betty Grable? Is that her name? First name?
Betty Grable, yeah.
That's maybe the only actress I can name from the 50s. That's the only one I can offer to this discussion.
I'm trying to think of like other Hitchcock actresses who I'd cast as that.
For what's the husband's name?
De La Salle.
I could definitely see Hitchcock casting Jimmy Stewart for that.
Jimmy Stewart will just do any Hitchcock film.
And is he enough of a bastard to pull that off, though? I don't know. That's the
thing.
Well, I mean, I feel like
characters,
but I feel like Jimmy Stewart has like a pretty similar you know, I mean, I know physique isn't everything, but I mean, he does have a similar physique to the actor who played the character in this movie, and I feel like Jimmy Stewart, yeah, like he plays like a lot of like a lot of good guys, but I feel like he could have pulled it off if given the chance.
Well, like I would argue both of his most famous Hitchcock roles, he's playing a bastard. That's
true.
He's Jimmy Stewart, and it's really hard for us to see him that way. Because, like, let's be real, him in Rear Window is kind of a jerk.
Yeah,
he's peeping Tom. He really doesn't appreciate this woman who's like fawning all over him, and like he's not exactly the most responsible dude. And then Vertigo, like if second half of Vertigo, Jimmy Stewart was portraying this husband character, I could totally see that toxic relationship because he was extremely abusive to Kim Novak in the second half of Vertigo. But the thing is, we spent that whole first half of the movie feeling bad for him. And then you're just like, it would be a much murkier kind of relationship, and it would make me question him. Just being Jimmy Stewart would probably make me question, like, at this point in this movie, you're kind of like, this guy's a bastard. Like, in movie world, yeah, get rid of him. Like, it would be interesting if it was a Jimmy Stewart type playing that character, and how much we'd be all gung-ho on Christina's like plan to like murder her husband. I'm trying to think. See, I'm having trouble thinking right off the spot. Basically, well, first off, Christina would be blonde, and then any number of his leading actresses probably could have.
I mean, Nicole is already blonde, so I don't think Hitchcock would be like, oh, let's have two blondes in this. I think he would be okay with just the one, or maybe I'm being naive.
But is she the protagonist?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So, like, I don't know, like Ava Marie Saint, guess Kim Novak. Like,
I could see Kim Novak as Nicole, because I feel like both she and the actress who play Nicole, they both have a bit of a steeliness to them that I really think Kim Novak would be able to bring to the character if Hitchcock had directed this.
So now is go back in time.
Hey, if you guys ever fantasize about an actress from the 50s, is she like in black and white while you're doing it?
What?
With the rest
and now for something completely different.
I mean, it's a good question, because if most of the movies you see them in, they're black and white, and you're in color. Are you in black and white?
It's like,
wearing a nice suit. You hang up your coat.
You walk into your bedroom. There's two separate beds. Do you push them together?
Two separate beds.
Yeah.
This is the 1950s. But anyway,
the farther and farther I go back into American history, things get a little bit awkward for me. So
no, man.
So I think I'll stay in 2021.
So we're not going to go back in time, the five of us, and try to make this with Hitchcock.
Matt, I'm bringing you back to the 70s with me.
Let's go 80s.
Slightly better. But so interesting thoughts on like potential fan casting for Hitchcock version of this. But I know we talked a lot about the climax of this film, because like honestly, at the end of the film, I'm like, I was so like entranced by that. As somebody who pays a lot of attention to like the cinematography and the direction of movies, I was eating it up. I was just like, this is so perfectly put together. But I guess, what were some of the things that you all feel like make this? Obviously, most of us hadn't seen it before. Like, I would consider this a classic. I hope more people check this out. Watch it on HBO Max. But what are some of the things that you feel like really make this film stand out?
I think that anxiety stuff, like the end is awesome because like there's like two really like wild punches, at least for me anyway. Like, oh man, actually there's a couple punches. Like, oh man, like he's in the house. One punch, second punch. Oh man, is he a zombie? He's getting up out of the tub. Third punch. Okay, she's dead. Fourth punch. Oh wait, maybe she's not dead. But even earlier in the movie, like when there's the drunk guy that's trying to get inside of the car, or when you think like the old guy and his wife might try, like, when they're inside the other apartment, might try to interfere with the actual murder scene, like, and then the murder scene itself. There's like other random moments. Like this movie definitely does a really good job at kind of like making you sit at the edge of your seat and not kind of wait for the end for it to kind of get like super wild and scary and awkward. And I thought that was really cool. I also like the fact that this movie, so the same like with any other movie, I think I said that like last time that we all met up, like I get squeamish when we start talking about movies that are like the 60s and before, like I get squeamish because I'm always thinking like, oh man, I really hope I'm gonna have a good time with this. Like Rotten Tomatoes, like I don't know, like they steer me right usually, but just I get nervous that I'm gonna get bored. But this movie was not boring at all, and not just because it was like anxiety provoking, but also because it did something that I didn't expect it to do, which was it was actually pretty okay with violence. Like there's a lot of moments where I thought it was going to kind of like look away, and there's only like I can only think of one moment when I don't know if it was like a sexual assault thing or he's hitting her. I don't know, but like he like walks and then she's like screaming and then it goes to the next scene. But besides that, like the murder, they're like really showing him like dunking his head down, and then they're showing him like get drunk, and then like this stuff and that stuff. There's like a lot of moments where you would think that something would be fast forwarded, but it wasn't. And I thought that movie was pretty like bold to do that. I can only imagine someone from like the 50s looking at that, and they probably had actual heart attacks inside the movie theaters watching that.
Yeah. I definitely liked the way in which Nicole and Christina's characters were developed, simply because like in the beginning, obviously Nicole is the more headstrong, Christina is the more timid, but then as the movie goes on, like it was interesting to see Christina become the more assertive one when she's like, I want to go to the police. I want to go to the police. I want to go to the morgue and see if this body they found is my husband's. And Nicole keeps telling her not to do it, but Christina says no, I want to go. I want to do this. And then during this time, like Nicole seems to become like a little more scared of like what's gonna happen to them. And then at the end, just like at the end when we talk about was this Christina's plan all along? It makes you think, maybe this like fragility that she showed, maybe that was the put on, and then this strength that she begins to show in the second act, that's her true self coming forward, because she knows her plan will become. I mean, if this was her plan all along and it was all a setup, this is her true self coming out to meet the end of the plan unfolding.
You're talking about, so you say Christina, you're talking about the wife.
Yes.
the brunette, the brown hair.
Yes.
I'm not seeing, and I've heard one or two people say that you're saying after the second act, after he's dead, you're seeing a strength in her,
no,
as opposed to the fragility in the first act.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know if I was like saying it like right, but yeah, like basically, I just like how her character is developed with how she shows this fragileness like in the first half, but then in the second half she starts to like show some control. She goes against what Nicole wants to do, and she comes more into her own and is more assertive in the actions that she wants to take.
Okay, all right. I mean, I definitely see, because when you were talking before, Vinny, I wrote down, this guy is so controlling, and at that point in the movie, before I know that he's faking it, I'm thinking to myself, wow, even in his death, the guilt of this guy being gone is such a heavy weight on her, and just the idea that the body not being there, all these things, like even when he's gone, that's why I'm thinking maybe this guy really is the devil. That's where my mind was going. It didn't go there, which makes it a much more clever movie. But I'm a little more. I feel like Christina. I guess I kind of like Christina, and I think she's one of the only characters that I wouldn't just take her to Applebee's. I take her to. I would take her. I take her to Chili's. I would take her.
Chili's. 2 stars to 3 stars.
2.5. But yeah, no, I would. I really do. I kind of like Christina. I don't, and it which is crazy to say, because they use this against her. They know that she's scared. They know that she hates her husband, and they use it against her when he smacks her in the face. He's smacking her in the face because he knows she might not do it, and he needs her to do it so he can get rid of her. So you start to see all the little things that they did to influence her to freaking commit the murder. I can't forgive her for committing the murder, but at the same time, they pushed her and pushed her to do it. So would I forgive someone in real life? Well, I don't want to. That's a horrifying thought. But in the context of this film, I'm feeling a lot of sympathy for her still.
Alex, I like what you're saying. Like, I'm kind of changing my opinion on her. Even like it's like the third time I'm changing my opinion on her. As you're talking, I'm thinking like, why am I thinking that she's like she's passive, or like she's being pulled into scenarios which makes her weak? But she's just like a regular person. Well, I mean, she did like murder somebody, even if it wasn't that. But like if I call her passive and weak and all this stuff, then that means that I'm kind of siding with like the true monsters of the story, which is bad. So I like what you're saying, Alex. Actually, I like what you're saying. I'm like switching. Yeah, she's definitely. I could definitely hang out with her at Applebee's.
This movie is playing 5D chess on us. It's like putting, and I think what makes this stand out to me so much is, in hindsight, obviously this book, this film are decades old at this point, and we have certainly seen these things done over and over and over again in movies. And there's so many like tropes and cliched scenes throughout this film that we've seen in other films plenty of times. But the whole entire time I watched this film, I'm like, I was hooked, I was drawn in, and never once thought about that. And I think that stands out to me about this film, because like the scene where they have the body in the basket and they're like, oh, I'll get this like metal bin thing. This is much better. We could move some things. Like, no, And like, how
That
many
was
times
funny.
have we seen a scene like that?
I like that couple. I really
Yeah.
like that couple.
And it really works. And this film works on so many different levels. And like, the more you think about it, and the more layers you pull back, it's just like, you feel bad because she's like a battered woman. She's in a horrible relationship. She's abused.
Mhm.
And then the more you think about them, like, they were actively antagonizing her to trick her into being convinced by her friend to do this so that the husband could run away with her instead and get rid of the wife. And you're just thinking, like,
Right.
how many different ways are they manipulating, abusing this woman?
Mhm.
And like, it builds all the way up to like an actual like burst of her having a heart attack and dying. And it's terrifying. And then you take it, did she though? And that adds so many other layers to it. And I was thinking about this movie. I watched this a week ago, and I've been thinking about this all week. Like, I've watched, I don't even know how many movies in the past week, but like, this was one that has been sticking with me. And it's just like, there's so much to unpack and to process and to think about morally. This
And I think, and honestly, not being French, not being in the 50s, I think there's a lot that you miss because you just don't know. There's a lot of things, even some of the things that the kids were talking about. Jim, like you mentioned the religious stuff. I mean, you only touched on it. Like, is there more that we missed? You meant with the
Oh,
religious?
there's so much. So I could pick up with something you said about her guilt, right? So I think we were kind of along. We were moving along the same lines when we started to think that his ghost had come back, right? You and I, at least, started to think that it was some kind of zombie or whatever. There were several times in the movie she stopped at an image of Christ on her at her mirror. And Jesus, same thing. He got up allegedly out of the grave, right, and was walking around, and different people would see him, right? People would have visions of him, or certain people claimed to have been touched by him or whatever. So there was that whole kind of flavor going on. But what you saw as kind of a weakness in her guilt, I thought that was more like her faith. So the big question I had from this movie was like, is her faith a strength or a weakness for her in this movie? I decided it was more of a weakness.
Mhm.
But her faith or her weakness or her guilt, excuse me, her faith or her guilt is what convinced her to go to the inspector. And the inspector was the one who nailed them in the end, right? So I don't know. Maybe the jury's still out for me whether
Right.
her, and that ties into her being, is she a weak character, or did she find some kind of agency in the second half of the movie? I don't really know. The jury's still kind of out for me. I'm a recovering Catholic myself, so I tend to want to say it's a weakness, but that's my personal bias. You know what I mean?
What's running through my head right now and thinking about what we're talking about, Jim, is so like the title of this movie is The Devils. And this isn't like a happy ending where the inspector stops them in time and saves her and gets them. She dies for them to go away. Because like they get arrested for killing her, basically. Because correct me if I'm wrong, do they well, besides being abusive, obviously
Assuming that she's dead.
yes, assuming that she's dead, and assuming besides him being an abusive asshole, did they do anything else illegal?
They're stealing her money.
Oh yeah.
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 So basically, she dies, they get caught and sent away. And if she is actually dead, she winds up being sacrificed to take down these evil people. But is she?
I followed you there. So when she dies,
Yeah.
quote unquote dies, it's in order for them to get caught because the inspector's there. The videotape is in the pocket, right? Like he's there to hear everything. I don't know, man. The inspector creeped me out. I thought the inspector was a ghost. I was all over the place.
And if she's not really dead and she rose again at the end of the movie, that just adds all kinds of layers.
Right.
To her
I almost, like I said, I
sacrifice.
almost wanted like 7 more minutes of, but it kind of, I guess it leaves you to have a long conversation afterward. What they don't show you.
Now
It's an interesting choice not to show you.
I hate to be the one to bring up the nightgown again, but in all of this art where Jesus comes back out of the grave, right? He's always like barely covered because he's just wearing these. He's a mummy who's walking out of his clothes, right? Like I may be reading way too far into this. She's a beautiful woman. Let's show a little bit of her body. Why not? But maybe that is the kind of a nod as well. I don't know.
I'll also just gut instinct point out that I missed this. I heard you guys say it before. I missed the cleavage. Apparently, maybe
not cleavage.
It's not cleavage. It's like it's very
see through.
Yeah, the material is very thin. The material is very thin.
I missed that. Like, how did I miss that?
And it's like
I was too busy being freaked out about all the creaking doors and lights down the hallway and long shots down the hallway. I'm not even paying attention to her. I'm just like,
I wanted to say, I love the shot of her looking through her bedroom window and like across the courtyard, and the light is on in the other room, and she sees like the shadow behind the curtain. Like, I mean, it's simple, but it's just it's so creepy.
This was a
lot that I missed.
Like, there's so much to be said about technically how this film was put together.
Yep.
And it's so fantastic. And
there's no music in the end. I think that was probably like that's probably my favorite part about the ending. If I'm gonna get out of like just like what I'm watching and kind of like more like the technical stuff, it's completely silent. It's either like you see like shadows or like you see like people walking but no footsteps, or you hear footsteps, or then you hear creaking finally, but there's no music. Not even like like scary violin stuff. There's none of that.
Well, and you know what? Consciously, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, there's like, and yeah, it's really cool
like,
actually.
Because I know I've had this conversation with Alex plenty because John Carpenter fans, and like thinking about The Thing. And one of my favorite pieces of music made for a film is the track Bestiality that was supposed to be in The Thing. And it's like, and it just keeps it building and building and building. Ennio Morricone. And they wind up using it in The Hateful Eight for a similar type shocking scene. But that was supposed to be during the blood test scene in The Thing. But they decided it worked better without music.
Yeah, totally.
And one of my favorite films of all time, No Country for Old Men, which shamelessly plug, Welcome to the Wasteland, which Alex and Matt joined me for that one. And that was a fantastic episode. But there's like no music in the whole entire film.
That's right.
The tension is so high, and you don't need it sometimes, because like I'm somebody who loves music and film and pays so much attention to scores, but sometimes you don't need it. And no matter how great the music can be, sometimes it's just simple and you don't need it. And this worked so well.
And you know what? Like, I'm sorry to like go back to Hitchcock again, but it makes you wonder if he would have used music because I think for Psycho, he was like originally the shower scene wasn't gonna have any music, but then he was convinced to have who was it, Bernard Herrmann,
yep,
who did the score. But he was convinced to have Bernard Herrmann make a score for that scene, and then that's what that helped make that scene so iconic.
Yeah, and I've seen it without music. I don't think it works as well without the music.
Right. Yeah.
And like I've seen the blood test scene in The Thing with bestiality put over it, and I didn't feel like it added anything to the scene, to be honest, because like sometimes it just works. And that's an interesting thing, because that's such an interesting thought just in general of you thinking of different artists and how they would approach the same material, and how little things like that, like
Sure.
would they rely on music to build the tension? Because like a lot of horror movies today use it so badly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, I don't need, like, you can use deep focus and show something behind somebody without being like, "Brr!"
Yep.
And just like, I don't need that jump scare. I don't need the music to reinforce the jump scare.
Well, actually, that reminds me a lot of like, I mean, just to go to a different movie, just really quick. Did you guys see that movie from a few years ago, Personal Shopper?
Yes.
The scene near the end when like Kristen Stewart is in the courtyard, and then you see the ghost like behind the window in the kitchen, and it kind of just like slowly like walks across. Like there was no music to that, and I just got massive chills like during that scene.
So if you want a filmmaker who maximizes like the background and just being comfortable with what's going on in the frame, Mike Flanagan and all the stuff in the background during Haunting a Hill House. Oh my God.
I didn't see Haunting of Hill House, but I remember watching Gerald's Game, and like the first time she sees the guy like in her bedroom, and he's like deep in the corner in the shadows, but you can still like kind of see him. Like that was spine tingling.
And I appreciated the restraint in this movie, not to have like obnoxious strings playing during that scene, because I felt like I was holding my breath the whole time, because I felt like I was trying to be quiet and be like, and like you're just slowly moving towards that door at the end of the hallway that's completely pitch black, and you could just barely see the light coming from that room, and you're just like, nope, no, don't you dare. And like I was definitely having that feeling during that whole entire thing.
That section really feels like a combination of film noir and thriller, you know, which are not always one and the same. You know, film noirs typically, you know, obviously they're dark and they have pretty unlikable, scummy characters, which this does, but they're not always set up necessarily to make you feel anxious or make you feel like you're being, you know, strung along into some sort of danger. And this is kind of a combination of the two, you know.
I think it's great that you bring up noir, Alex. We need to talk about light. And Shane, I know you're a Godfather fan. There were a couple of scenes in this movie, off the top of my head, for example, when they opened not the casket, but what was it, a bamboo box or whatever? It was like there was a light coming out of the coffin, and Christina moved into darkness and then into light again in like the same shot. It was really, really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, to keep harping back to the same scene, like that ending sequence and just how pitch black everything is and eerie, and just the minimal use of like the actual light going on between the rooms. And it's so like it's interesting because I've been going through all the Kubrick films, and besides Spartacus, all of his movies up until 2001 A Space Odyssey were black and white. And there's like watching so much black and white cinema lately, it's been interesting to appreciate how crisp and how well you can use light and dark in it, because that's what it is. It's all light and dark. Like there's not a whole lot of shades of gray that you can use. And
Right.
the lighting is so important. 50.
50.
Yeah, 50. And
Oh,
maybe we'll talk about that.
I got
When
it.
did the first one come out? How many years do we have to wait to talk about 50 Shades of Grey on here?
4 years.
Ah,
we'd all rather talk about Eyes Wide Shut. Yeah.
Matt wouldn't. I would. So, and like, I appreciate you bringing that up, Jim, because like, yeah, because like, you think of The Godfather, the whole entire use of lighting in that, and the whole entire, that film's so dark. Like, everything's just made darker. And this film, the black and white cinematography is so perfect in it, and using all the lighting and everything. And I don't know, it makes it even creepier. Like seeing that like reanimated corpse like crawling up out of the bathtub with the like whitened eyes and everything, and just like there's something really eerie about watching that. And Vinny, I'm guessing that's what was on that Bravo list.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of how high on that list of scariest scenes was that?
Give me a second. I'll look it up right now.
Back check it.
That was like the scary movie moments of all time. This
Uh,
movie made that list.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I can see why. And like,
but I remember. Oh, it was number 49.
right in the middle, respectable. Well, it was top 100 or was it top 50?
Top 100.
Okay, then right in the middle. But it's this. I was really glad that we watched this because I had never heard of this film. And you know what? I've seen the Criterion cover before. Because, you know, when you spend a lot of time going to Barnes and Nobles your whole life, and all of them are just sitting there and you're like going through them like, what's this? And like seeing some person's head like halfway like dunked under like tub water, and you're just like, what's this movie? And in context now, it's like, that's really creepy.
So I recommended a movie that you had never heard of. Really?
Good for you, Vinny. Congratulations.
I win.
There you go.
Vinny, stop it.
Does anybody have any more thoughts, any final thoughts, anything else they wanted to dig into in this film?
Just one little thing, like the whole at the end when he has the text on the screen saying, don't tell anyone how it ends, don't tell anyone what you just saw. Like, it's funny how, again, sorry to go back to Hitchcock again, but it's funny how like he missed out on getting the rights to this movie, but then 5 years later with Psycho, he would do a similar thing where like in the movie theaters, he would have like the sign saying, don't tell anyone the end. If you come late to the movie, you won't be seated yet. You have to watch the movie from beginning to end. So it was funny how he ended up using like that similar tactic.
Yeah,
like it literally said, our maitre d', Bruce Campbell, will not allow you to come into the theater.
Bruce Campbell.
I mean, totally respect that. Totally, definitely it makes the movie much more special if you don't know the ending. But what I'm going to say is, isn't anyone going to bring up that these shitty people run a school?
Wild.
They're going to talk
Wild.
about the boys that they're trying to be teaching.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that at the school because under the plot synopsis on the Wikipedia page, it describes it as a second-rate boarding school. So
they're being talked shit about 70 years later on IMDb. They're second rate. Oh, screw the kids. I mean, come on. This is this group of boys. By the way, they're always being told to shut up and stop, being themselves. And they're these shitty adults.
But did you also see like did you also see like how dirty the pool always was?
Is that because the kids? Are you blaming that on the kids?
No. I'm blaming it on like on a poor. I'm blaming it on a poor maintenance crew. Like
blaming it on the shitty adults, Alex.
I have a shitty pool in my backyard.
Who's in charge of buildings and grounds over there?
Yeah, it was that guy. It was that one guy.
Groundskeeper Willie.
Groundskeeper Willie. You took my joke.
They need more than one guy. They need a crew.
Yes, they do. They do. They need me and my brother. Apparently, that scene, that was the only thing I had to bring up. The thing that made me feel like it was Stephen King-esque was the scene where the ball goes in the pool. You know, it was just so like, of course that was going to happen. They both said, I knew that shit was going to happen. You know, I knew the ball was going to go in the pool. The ball always goes in the pool. But it was there was something very powerful about that image of the ball being in the pool and the kids like surrounded, like, what the hell are we going to do? There's like a dead body in here. You think there's a dead body at that point. And then this lady's like, you know what? You're a good swimmer. Here, get my keys. She's like, because she needs a reason for them to find the body, you know? And so I wonder about that scene and what it means. And he pulls up a lighter. Did he mean to leave his lighter at the bottom of the pool? You know, did he mean to leave it? I don't know. But I just found that was the scene that really stuck out to me that we didn't get a chance to talk about.
And even like Jim brought this up a little bit too, like them just like disposing of the body in there, the whole entire like bringing it up and like opening that container and everything. And like I brought that up earlier, it's like, of course the kids would like find their way towards the pool. And that was what's interesting too, if you really think about it, subverting a lot of things because they wanted them to, because it's all part of their plan. Like all of these things where it's like, if you're going to put a body in a pool, of course somebody's going to find it, but they wanted them to find it and not really find it. And playing with those moments and those tropes, because it's like, basically this film has that like beginning part of you're setting up the relationships, you're setting up the motivations for things, then the planning and the execution, and then the hiding. Because like you have to have the hiding, because what good would it be to build tension if like somebody doesn't, like some dog like goes up to where you buried the body and just like, oh my God, is the dog gonna like dig up something? Or like some kids wander, like throw their ball and it goes into the place where the body is. Are they going to find the body? Yeah. And like those kinds of moments, and they're so well done that you forget that you've seen stuff like that 50 million times.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It definitely did subvert my expectations. That's for sure. That's for sure.
But yes, they should 100% shut that place down.
Yeah, like, totally.
Because you know what? They better hope all those kids are good swimmers, because if one falls into the pool and he's not a good swimmer, lawsuit waiting to happen.
There's no lifeguard. There's no school counselor, but there's no lifeguard. Also, you have to be pretty messed up to go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set this whole thing in motion by traumatizing a child, make him go into the pool and find a dead body. Let me scar that other person. Like, screw that kid.
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we all need to get into a PC time machine and go back and bitch slap people from the 50s. I think that's
a lot of that.
It was like we need to do, especially in France.
He was like smoking in the train. I was like, bad.
R rating.
Womanizing on the train.
R rating because you smoked a cigarette.
He made a womanizing look on that train. He did, but she
my grandma was like, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, hey, all right, Jim. What was the divorce rate in 1955?
Oh, much lower. But I think
Right.
probably because of those reasons, the religious reasons, it's a mortal sin. You can't get divorced because it's a mortal sin. So that's kind of why I'm conflicted. Like, if she hadn't had so strong a Catholic faith, which again, France, I mean, it's just as cultural as it is religious when we're talking about France, right? But like, if she had just given him the divorce, would all this have happened? Uh, Maybe not. I don't know. Um, I don't know. One last thing for me is I liked the use of the props. I don't know if this is like theater training coming through. And is it Clouseau? Is that how you say his name?
I think so. Sounds about right.
But who said if you like put a gun in a scene in Act 1, it has to go off in Act 3? Who said that?
Oh,
I did. I did.
that's like that. That's called Chekhov's gun, right?
Chekhov, right?
Oh, Matthew's
I
gone.
was thinking Bachoff, and I knew it wasn't.
Yep.
It's Freudian.
Matthew's gone.
So like the Matt Williams gun. What were the things? The typewriter was like one of them. Oh, the whiskey bottle. I really liked how they used the whiskey bottle, or how he used the whiskey bottle in that. It's a very key scene, but it's all centered around that table.
Mhm.
You're like, is he gonna pour it? Is she gonna pour it? Like,
Yep.
is it gonna happen? And just the whole play, it really ratcheted up the tension really, really effectively. It was really well done. So throughout the film, I was looking at the props, like the typewriter, for example. I thought, yeah, just all around, really, really, really well done. I was really impressed. So I queued up Wages of Fear, I think is the English translation. I'm going to watch one of his other really successful movies soon. The English name is Wages of Fear, but I won't try to pronounce the French one. The French Clouseau. But yeah, I mean, without Psycho, I don't know that any of us would be watching this movie at all.
Well, you know what? I'm also interested in reading the book now, just to see like how it compares to the movie.
Oh, they wrote a book about this movie?
I mean, the movie was based on a book. It's called She Who Was No More.
Oh,
I was being an ignorant movie watcher.
Oh,
you being me.
There's a term. I'll just say the last thing was the fact that we kept talking about religion, and I forgot my favorite line of the whole movie, which was, "Don't you believe in hell?" That's what I think Christina says, and the other one says, "No, not really. Not since I was 7." I don't know why, but I really like that line. And then Shane, earlier you said it's interesting. No, Vinnie, you said it's interesting to think about like how with different creative forces, like I guess like adapt to something. And this reminded me of something really random. I think it was Ridley Scott that said that when he watched Jurassic Park for the first time, he thought that, man, if I would have done this, it would have been a lot more gory, and I wouldn't have had scenes like the like that, like the long necked dinosaur, like in the beginning, like where it's kind of like beautiful and like majestic and not just terror. So he said that he would have like chopped a lot of stuff out and like switched things around.
And that's what makes it a Spielberg.
Yeah, so it was interesting.
Well,
I'd love to hear him talk about that.
Well, Matt, it's funny what you said about Ridley Scott making it more gory, because like I haven't read the book, but I've read like I've listened to like a few snippets of the audiobook on YouTube, and Nidri's death in the book is actually much more disturbing and like gory than it is in the movie.
I don't know if it's as disturbing as hearing Wayne Knight's like wah, wah, like from outside of the car, because that's the thing. Spielberg used a lot of subtlety there, and it was pretty disturbing. But yes, Michael Crichton's writing in that book, it's savage.
Mm-hmm.
Like
savage.
Because like I had this conversation with Alex too. First Jurassic Park's not a monster movie. Most of the other Jurassic Park, Jurassic World movies are monster movies. And the book's a monster movie. in book form. And like those scenes that Steven Spielberg put in there made it a Spielberg. And I think that's so interesting, going back to what we were talking about earlier, the different sensibilities that a director can bring to things. Because like I had this conversation with Alex about the film Artificial Intelligence. And it's just like, does Kubrick inserted in, like, does Steven Spielberg making a Kubrick film work? And there's some strange tonal things about that movie that just don't fit right. And it really feels like Steven Spielberg trying to like put himself into something that Kubrick was going to make, which Kubrick's not necessarily known for warmth and hope.
Well, see, if Kubrick made that movie, like he definitely would have ended it with Haileigh with David, like at the like under the water in like the little like space, not spaceship, but like hovercraft thing.
100% yes.
Yes,
and then we would never have gotten Sir Ben Kingsley's weird, whatever you want to describe them as, aliens.
Well, they were mechas who evolved into aliens over the course of 2,000 years.
Well, yeah, they were like they were beyond dimensional or planetary, whatever the hell. But like they looked really weird from what 2000 or 1999 when that came in. CGI though, come a long way. Yes. But like this basic idea, because like how different would this be? Because like it feels so much like a Hitchcock film, but how different would it be if it was a Hitchcock film? And if you really think about it, it's like, would have been more montages, and maybe, yeah, there would have been like some unnerving strings and stuff during that finale. I don't know. We'll never know. And we don't have a time machine to go back and buy the rights out from under this guy and give it to Alfred Hitchcock to make. So
sure, it's
an interesting idea. And I'm sure all of us have had those conversations of like, what if this person directed this movie? And it's like, everybody has a very specific voice. Some are much more specific than others, but I think it would be an interesting thing to think about. Like, honestly, all the things that would be different if they made this today, or apparently in the 90s when they ruined it. So
I need to watch the remake with Chaz Palminteri and Sharon Stone.
I don't think you do. According to IMDb, no one should ever watch that movie.
Not so good. I bet you it doesn't. Yeah, I know, but it would just be interesting to like. I mean, the remake of Psycho wasn't very good. Obviously, with
it was a remake of Psycho.
Yes, and it's not for shot. Well, they added a couple shots. They heavily alluded to something going on when Norman was peeping Tom on.
Oh yeah.
Played by Vince Vaughn.
Which that was like the same time he was in Lost World Jurassic Park. Those were like his first two like big roles. This is like
both from Universal.
What a cast. This is
Julia Moore, Viggo Mortensen.
Viggo's in it? No way.
No.
Oh, that was one of the things that they changed about this one. And what was it? Anne Hesh. Yeah. Well, they make that joke in the beginning of the real Psycho where it's like, don't forget your boots or whatever. And because he didn't put his shoes on. And in this one, Viggo Mortensen's butt ass naked. And it's like, don't forget your boots. Haha, because he's naked. So they turn it and like, of course they had to make him naked this time because 90s.
Of course. Are we still filming? I feel like we've gotten so far off course.
We sure have. But I think, well, obviously it's not exactly talking about Diabolique anymore, but I think it's an interesting thought of like, this is why you shouldn't remake some things. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't work. Because tried it with Psycho, apparently they tried it with this movie. And we could have a whole other podcast talking about why people need to stop remaking things and just do some of their own shit for once. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I really love this film. I'm definitely buying this. I'm definitely going to watch this again. And maybe next time I'll watch it at night with the lights off and see how much better that gets, because I watched it midday.
Maybe do the bathroom scene for Jess as a Halloween prank.
I keep laughing. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Oh, that was good. That was good.
That would be an interesting one. But final thoughts.
And then put it on the and put it on your channel. Please film it.
I need somebody to direct it.
I'll step in for it. I'll be the director.
But not volunteering to do that.
Any final thoughts, comments about Diabolique?
I said everything I wanted to say.
Alrighty. Well, next month we're going to be having Matt's pick, which is Pan's Labyrinth. So we're jumping about 5 decades. And something very interesting to be thinking about, that mix of fairy tale and fascism. So it'll be a very interesting talk that we're going to have, because I wonder how that conversation is going to go in 2021. But you'll just have to find out next time on the Development Hell podcast next month. But thank you from Alex, Jim, Matt, Vinnie, and myself. Thank you all for always tuning in and always supporting the Development Hell podcast.